Okay, we call to order the December 16th, 2025 regular board meeting of the Lynn Benton Lincoln Education Service District. Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and do introductions. And Bill and Denise, if you guys want to go ahead and start us out, and then afterwards we can do introductions in the room, starting with Lisa, and then just go around.
I'm Bill Hayes, representing Zone 1.
And I'm Denise Hughes-Taffan, representing Zone 4.
Executive Financial Officer. Tina Wonderly, Executive Human Resources.
Amy Vetter, Board Director, Zone 5.
Jason Hayes, Superintendent. Michael Thompson, Director, Zone 3. Eddie Symington, Director, Zone 7. Hiram Bass, Cybersecurity Technician.
Thanks, everyone. All right, let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next up, monthly acknowledgement.
Okay, so on page 4, you can see what I wrote for monthly acknowledgements. So a few different things in December. So we've had Rosa Parks Day on December 1st, and then on December 2nd, we had Special Education Day. And so that's one that is near and dear to our hearts with a lot of our services here at the ESD. When we look at, then there's Computer Science Education Week that just happened this last week, along with Human Rights Day. And then, of course, there's the variety of different cultural and religious and seasonal traditions that people have in December. So I think the biggest thing that as I've talked with staff members, it's so good to recognize all of these things. And then I also like to remind people in December is a stressful month for a lot of people. It's also really good to just take a breath and give grace to yourself and other people. Go ahead for that.
Any public comment? Yes, thank you. All right, sorry.
Hey, just one.
To the agenda.
Can I just interrupt 1 minute?
Yes, you may.
Bill, I don't know about you, but it sounds really quiet in the meeting room. What are you finding?
I agree. I turned my sound all the way up, and when you spoke, I almost jumped out of my chair because
Okay.
I can hear you really well.
When I spoke or when Amy spoke?
Well,
when Denise spoke. Okay. We will just need to make sure that we project in the room as we talk.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay right now?
I can.
I heard you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for letting us know, Denise, so that, yeah, you can hear.
We'll try and be cognizant of that, so appreciate the feedback. Thank you. I'm going to try to not look down so much. Okay, so we have an addition to the agenda. We'll be adding the approval of the updated local service plan as an action item under the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, sorry, got my pages mixed around. Next item for us is the consent agenda. Did anyone have any comments, any questions about it? Okay, whenever we're ready, I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or any discussion, rather? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against say no. All right, it has been unanimously approved to pass the consent agenda. All right, and then up next, we have a couple of board positions. So we currently have the Oregon Association of OAESD, the Governance Council role empty. I have volunteered to fulfill this position. It's once a month. I just wanted to throw it out there to everyone to give people a chance to, if they want to do it, instead of just taking the spot. So I wanted to verbally give everyone a chance if they're interested. But if no one else is, I am willing to step into that spot.
Yeah, and the board doesn't need to make a motion on this. It's like our work groups, and so it's just been empty. Sorry, Michael, I didn't.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying it's just,
Yeah.
pro forma.
And then on page,
The chair-elect.
exactly,
Yeah.
there's a role, if there's anyone on the board that is interested, I don't think we have to nominate anyone. It's just if anyone is interested in serving on the, I found the page. It's on page 15 of the packet, is just more details on the duties of the chair or the chair-elect. So if anyone is interested from our board, I just wanted to give an opportunity for you to express that. Otherwise, if nobody is interested, we can not nominate anyone.
Okay.
I hear you say you wanted it. Let me be clear. Not interested.
Okay, it sounds like we are good to move on. Nobody is wanting to take that on currently. All right. So next up is board director reports. This would be a good opportunity for those of us who have attended the AESA conferences to share our reflections. I'm ready to share whenever. Bill and Denise, if you want to go ahead and share first. If you are ready.
I'm ready. All set? Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I had sent Jason and board members just my summary of notes I took at the sessions I attended. And I'll comment just briefly. I felt like the branding session was really something interesting to pass on to our marketing people, but they might be way ahead of me on that. The innovation station, which came from folks from our Northwest ESDs in Marion County. I thought the most interesting thing on that was on AI, and just some of the things in my notes that you can look at about that on how to kind of get folks comfortable with the vocabulary of AI and AI justice and working with youth in AI. And then the third one was the Innovation Station from Indiana. And the one thing I learned from the conference is just probably the avalanche of resources and technology that teachers and administrators are offered. That's probably mind-numbing. It was to me. And what Indiana does in uh, their version of the ESD is they vet everything through their organization and demand a 2% discount and split that savings with the folks that subscribe to those. And then they're able to vet it for safety. And then finally, the one I found most helpful is the knowledge to me of ESDs or ESAs working with workforce boards in states. And I'd like to research more of that. And perhaps we're already doing that, or our districts are doing that, so that we collaborate with workforce boards to get money from them to direct students toward gaps in the workforce in our state. So those are my takeaways from that. And is this an appropriate time to talk about our follow-up conversation about the whole experience of the board at a very expensive setting and some of our conversation about that?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, can you hear me okay, Bill and Denise?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that having that conversation would be good. There was a request. I know that Miriam was not able to attend tonight, and she had sent an email, I believe, you might have all seen that, that I replied to about having that conversation when we could have a little bit more time in depth during our board retreat, which
Sure.
is sometimes when we do planning and things like that. And so her proposal was for that to go into the board retreat agenda, and I just said that I would bring that up and ask the board if that's something that the board would like to do, and we can talk a little bit about conferences, how we select things, who goes, all the different protocols. And I had sent you all an email just with my thoughts after there had been some comments made about the conference and everything. So I
Okay.
don't know if that's something that really just kind of the board can kind of say, yep, let's go ahead. I'm going to be working on the planning for that retreat over winter break when it's kind of quiet.
Okay.
My only thought on that is, don't we have to notice the retreat appropriately if we talk about an issue that clearly would, I mean, whether we decided then or not, it clearly leads to a decision.
Yeah, so we actually have to give notice. That is a public meeting anyway, so all the retreats.
It's covered up.
Yeah, so you're right on in asking the question.
Yeah.
We actually, with all the retreats, we stream to YouTube for the whole
Okay.
entire day, and so it's a public meeting just like these are. It's, would just have the fact that we would have a whole day.
Right.
For me to kind of put an agenda together where there could just be some more time, and knowing that Miriam and Lori would both be missing the conversation if we're all together, that could be helpful.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but good
I
thought.
agree. No, I agree though. Having said that, I agree with that
Okay.
idea.
And is the basis of this whole topic really just about fiscal responsibility ultimately? And what are we attending as a board when we know that harder budget times are coming? That's where
Yeah.
this is coming from, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. There were a few different comments, there were a few different comments that were made. There were some conversations during the conference where we, just were like, wow, this is interesting to think about, spending money. And partly is just the optics, is that it was, even though the conference venue did not cost us what it would cost if you tried to go there at a separate time, they gave a conference rate for it, but the optics of it were definitely shocking of how nice of a venue it was. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts come from, is we need to be thinking about this through a fiscal responsibility lens and say, all right, well, how should we be spending money? And we need to be thinking about how that is conveyed to our staff and our constituent districts and other people that we serve. Sure.
Marion did make a good point, though, that it doesn't look like there's any conferences between now and retreat.
No.
So I think that we're safe
Yeah.
to hold off. But it's a valuable conversation, and I think that we are just as responsible for watching the bottom dollar as every department in our district, and we do have to be mindful of that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are no conferences, so that was a good point on Miriam's part.
Mhm, absolutely. I think it'll be good for us to have some time just to get into the topic a little bit more in depth than we necessarily would be able to during a regular board meeting.
And I concluded my report.
Okay, I would go next. I think some of the observations that others have noted, that was something that I reflected on as well. The whole idea around what does it mean to be, an ethical, responsible board member, one who centers equity was a theme that came up for me over and over again during the conference. So this was my first conference as a board member, and and it felt very different, because other conferences that I have been to, it has been more focused on my own like teaching content area. But going as a board member to this conference, um, I saw it through a different lens. I think I saw it more along the lines of instead of like my classroom, I saw it more as our ESD and how do I support the superintendent and staff within the ESD, so that was a huge shift for me, and I feel as though there's that expression like you're putting on the big pants now. It almost felt like that, like my roles as I grow into my roles. So that was a huge like area of growth for me in terms of understanding some of that a little bit more. In terms of the sessions that I attended, so I did attend a session that looked at board member responsibilities, and they just spoke about the different roles that board members have and kind of looking at some of the roles of the like the superintendent versus board members. So I thought that that was interesting. I wish there was more time because I had questions around that. So I wished that there was more time for more discussion. Bill, I think both you and Amy were also in that session as well. Um, what I enjoyed about the conference too was finding out more about the structure of different ESDs. I didn't realize how different some of us were, especially in terms of where our funding comes from and the different things that we do as well. So that was new for me. The sessions that I felt most drawn to, and so which I attended the most, was around workforce wellness. And so I think I learned a lot from those sessions. And my question too is around how can board members, like, what is our role in terms of supporting wellness in our ESD? And I thought, at some point, and, I'll just throw this out there, it might be good for us to have a discussion around like how do we see wellness? Because I think if we want an agency that really is focused on staff growth and wellness and looking more at things like trauma-informed care, that it also involves the board having their own mindset around those things as well. So that was just a thought from me, and just I was going to talk to you about that, but I have a question around where would the board fit into all of that? And something that I heard that kind of had me wondering some more is I went to a session and they were talking about open education resources and how they were using it to share knowledge, but also how to collaborate with other agencies and ESDs. And I know that at the community college level that there is a huge push for that. And I think too that when we talk about like teacher voice and stuff like that, that OERs are wonderful resources. And I want to find out more around how that might be more useful, who is doing it, find out about our own ESD and whether or not this is something that we might be able to also, take advantage of. So, in a nutshell, that's my report.
Thanks so much, guys. Great observances. And Bill, so I did take copious notes in some of the sessions, and so I have not typed them up yet, but I would like to do so and share just kind of some of the knowledge that I gained from some of those sessions that I felt were particularly beneficial to me. I felt like two of the keynote speakers, I felt like they focused a lot on relationships. Ben, I think his name is pronounced Ben Rudrud. But anyways, he approached it from a bit of a more like teacher perspective of the importance and how critical it is to build those strong relationships in the classroom, but it just, I think, was just a compelling reminder for me that just in any sort of workplace or place where people are working together, the relationships are critical in order to do a good job. It kind of reminded me a couple of years ago during in-service. I remember there was a message that I found really impactful at the ESD's in-service a couple of years ago. It's who you are is more important than what you know. And so it's the relational aspects and how you interact with each other as people, interacting respectfully, just communicating our care that we have for each other and how important that is in just pretty much every realm of our lives. It was a really, he shared his own life story, and it was really impactful. He had some teachers that really had a dramatic impact on his life, and changed through a trajectory because he was really disengaged with school. He was, he had something like 28 different houses when he was before the 8th grade. Just had a really kind of, there was a lot of stuff going on, and he was really just kind of disengaged from education and teachers. There were a couple of teachers that really stepped in and communicated how much they cared about him and how excited they were to see him the next day in class, and just what a huge impact that had on him, and it kind of changed the trajectory of his future. And that was pretty moving, and he had some of the teachers there too, which was pretty cool to see.
That's cool.
And then another one of the, so by the way, his book was like 99 cents on the Kindle store. So if you're interested, check that out. I downloaded his book, and I will read it when I have time. But 99 cents is not a huge investment, and I thought it was a really moving message. As far as the breakout sessions went, I went to that same one with Denise and Bill. And one of the messages that I found important in that is board learning is never over. It's never complete. And so I thought that was a really important message. And there was a lot more details and stuff that I can share in my written summary, but that was the thing that stood out to me about that. And there was also another one where it talked about legislative advocacy, because that's an aspect of my board development that I feel like I need to pursue more, is how can I use my position and reach out to legislators to advocate for education. And so it was, I forget what they call themselves because everyone has different acronyms, but it was what they have in Nebraska. And they're more entrepreneurial than us, but they do the same thing where they advocate with legislatures for education, and they had different levels, which I thought was interesting, like the easier stuff to do, and then the more advanced, sort of more high effort things to do in order to, create relationships and get the communication out there. So legislators can understand from educator perspectives and from classroom perspectives what impacts the decisions they're making can have on the classroom. So I thought that was really interesting. I am going to lost my sheet she gave us a handout, but I think I can access it on the Hooba app.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to do that, I want to send that one off to the rest of you guys because I thought that was really beneficial.
Great.
And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Okay. After.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I can go next here. I think there's a lot of things that have already been shared that were equally impactful and meaningful for me too. When we look at the keynote presentations around relationships, there's some really nice nuggets that were in there. Two things that kind of jumped out. I have some quotes, and then I've downloaded presentations that I'll be going back to as I think about what are some things that we can look at doing here at LBL. But one was with one of the Wednesday keynote that really hit me. you know, and it goes to the why, like when you look at Simon Sinek's work, why are you here and not anywhere else? And I think that there's real power in asking that question. And then, like Amy shared, no significant learning occurs without a relationship. And so some of the other sessions that really were impactful for me, one of them was around data and how do we use data to transcend emotions and feelings from ourselves, from staff, regarding our practices and programs that we use. It got me really thinking a lot about our upcoming spring customer satisfaction survey, and I'm working on developing that. That will come before you as the board during our retreat as part of the iterative process to develop that, but really around making data clear to everybody. And how do we use data to really show how well are we doing? Another session that I attended one of these sessions along this flavor with Denise, and then there was one other that was really around workplace experience and thinking about our staff experience. And they were talking about a workplace experience score. For us, we're using Gallup. We're working through our cultural compass work, but really getting more ideas about how can we create a better staff experience for our folks. So there's some great ideas there. I look back in past conferences where I've pulled information and we've actually done some of those things that I received ideas from the conference and that has been impactful to the staff. There was another session on gratitude that was really quite good that talked about culture. The quote there is, "Culture is the way that we do things, and climate is how culture makes you feel." And being intentional about gratitude and thinking about work-life rhythm rather than just work-life balance. There are different times of the year when I look at my own role that I might not be very balanced, but I can have a work-life rhythm that works for me and can be powerful in my leadership role for the agency. There was another section about leading with EQ, so emotional intelligence, that was really quite good. And EQ, this speaker defined it as self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relational management. And it was actually an HR director, Christina, so I have a bunch of notes about this, but really codifying, like, how do we identify talent, and then how do we onboard people, how do we check in with people, and so that was really a powerful session. So many different things. I think the last one that the last session I went to, and I'm thinking about this all the time right now, but just thinking about AI and how we utilize AI. And so there's just a few quotes that I thought worth sharing with you regarding AI. So one is, need to think about how we make sure that individual cultures don't get lost from AI use. Right. I mean, AI, I think, potentially could have an ability to just kind of homogenize things. And so being careful about that. Our executive team has been talking about writing some documents in terms of guidance around AI use, which you will be seeing some of those things in our work in January and February. So we've been having early discussions around it because we have the policy, but now it's the what's next part. So it's not just the wild, wild west of AI use. And then, I liked what this, and it came from the Friday keynote panel, but learning beyond AI, that we need to focus learning on collaboration skills, critical thinking skills, and EQ. Because just knowing facts isn't going to be enough for our kids. And then the last piece was learning from AI, learning with AI, and learning about AI, and having AI literacy. And so I think we're just at this inflection point in our education history and with AI. And so it was a good conference, very impactful. So, yeah. And I think Lisa was the last one that get a chance to talk.
Yeah, so a few of my notes, I went with a sales station and the same thing, like, I have that. But I selected sessions that were focused on practical approaches to workplace culture. We've been working a lot this last year, 6 months, on culture here and supporting the well-being of our staff. and a constant theme was, practicing gratitude. It's not just positive, it's also helpful for your organization. There's a whole bunch of ideas on how to do like gratitude check-ins with staff, and so I have all of that stuff down here. And, sessions, emphasize the importance of your mindset, reframing how you're thinking. This was something I actually heard Jason say today in one of our leadership meetings, but today, instead of saying I have to, you can say, today I get to do this. So just reframing how you're thinking, and be more positive, with that. Let's see, I think for me, the biggest takeaway was, attending the executive assistant luncheon, and it was just a chance for us all to just kind of talk and get to know each other across the country, and then we had a breakout session right afterwards, where we could just focus on things that are affecting us, and it was great. It was just kind of a popcorn session where people just said what they were wanting to talk about, and we all just talked about it. And the executive assistant for AESA was there to facilitate that meeting, so that was a really good one. And I've actually connected with one of the ladies, was like, so I want more information, and so we have communicated since then, and it's only been a week. And so that was really great to have that connection with there. And they kind of titled that one as Boundary Busters. That was her kind of theme, is letting us know that it's okay and it's healthy to set boundaries in your work setting. It's being professional. It's not being rude. You have to say, oh, I can't get to that right now. I have this other thing as a priority. That's not being rude. We're setting a professional boundary, and that's okay. And we talked quite a bit about that, and that was kind of, I always want to help in this position. You want to do everything for everybody and whatever you can do, but it's okay to say, my biggest goal, that's it. For us, it's a lot of conversation.
Thank you so much. It's really great to hear, just because we all have our different lenses that we're viewing things from depending on our roles. So it's nice to hear what everyone's getting, and everyone's getting different stuff, which is great. And that's the nice thing about all the breakout sessions too. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jason. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Denise. And I also wanted to give a moment. Do we have anything for board reports beyond the conference that anyone wants to share? So I wanted to open the floor for that too. Okay, sounds good. So we will move on. It looks like we have a single policy.
We do, and so the policy in front of you here tonight is policy DLBA, and this is advanced salary payment. This policy is not coming to you because OSBA had a recommendation or anything, but rather that we have had a couple of occurrences where we realized, you know what, these are basically payroll advances, and we haven't really done many payroll advances. I think in the past, in the time that I would have been signing them or aware of them, even as assistant superintendent, there was one in maybe the last 6 years. Well, we've had a few that have popped up, and it brought up pieces of this where we realized, okay, we need to make an adjustment here. Primarily around, you'll see that crossing out the language that all requests for advanced salary payments shall be submitted in writing to the superintendent, perfectly fine, except the sentence in green is actually what we want, because we need to add in or designee, because if the superintendent is away on vacation and not able to be found, which sometimes those are the type of vacations I like to do, where I go into the mountains not to be found, and that if somebody needs a payroll advance, it's usually an emergency, and it usually needs to happen like that day or the next day. And so we need to have the policy line up with having the ability for another member of cabinet to say yes, if that works. And then you can just see, we just clarified a few things in here, that payment will not exceed the amount of net salary earned, including any accrued vacation or personal time, as the date of the advance. And rather than the time of the request, most of the time of the request and the date of the advance are pretty close together. However, if they're separated a little bit, those dollar figures might be a little bit different. And then just, I think that the last sentence is clearer language to say advancements will be recaptured by the ESD in the subsequent pay cycle, which basically means if somebody asks for a $1,000 advance, 2 weeks before payday, well, then there will be $1,000 subtracted from their paycheck come the next payday. So that's the reason for this. I'll entertain any questions that you might have. Otherwise, my recommendation is that it be put in the consent agenda for next month, and then we will have updated this policy.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So generally speaking, though, with the advancement, is there ever a cap on how many times someone can ask for advancement?
That is a really good question, Denise. We have not had it in policy about a cap. There are times where we might actually, depending on the circumstances and the sort of why around it, say that, hey, you know what, we're not going to do this again. And I'll give you the example that's the biggest example that we've seen. And we saw this just one time last year. I've seen it in my past life in other districts, where you have someone who actually wants to get paid every other week instead of paid once a month, and they will ask for an advance so that they're getting paid every other week. And then what ends up happening is that they'll never really catch up, so then they get off cycle, and then you just keep asking, and so it does actually bring up more work and causes challenges for the business office. And where if we had a whole bunch of people that decided to do that, we would say no. That we typically do payroll once a month. We did have a conversation when we looked at this language about including that, but thinking about managing by exception rather than having some hard and fast number in the policy, we didn't think that it would be a good idea to have that in the policy, because you know what? If the number were 2 or the number were 3, and there was a very legitimate reason why 8 months later somebody needed another one, we still want to make sure we're behaving in a humane, way that we care about our people. So yeah, we considered it and then decided not to put it in.
Yeah, because what I wonder about if, and I'm just throwing this out, is like if there's some language around that, essentially how many times it will be given is pretty much based on the decision of, the superintendent or the designee, because somebody could argue, oh, but, you never stipulated, that I can't do this as much as I would like to.
Yeah,
Just a
absolutely.
thought.
One of the things that we could do is we could actually write an administrative rule that goes with this. That sometimes the AR will have a form, and that's what the form that they use, and so that's something that we could consider doing. If this continues to be the once in a blue moon sort of situation, I don't think that we need to worry too much about this. The biggest thing that we just wanted to make sure is that we had the designee part in, and then of course once cabinet started doing a rewrite, we're kind of like, well, that could be clearer, and let's change that too. So that's how we ended up where we're at here.
Okay.
Alrighty, okay, up next, Rocco.
All right. Love this timing. Let's go to page 20 and take a look at what happened last month. A couple of notable things. So first off, on the revenue report, you'll see we had huge tax receipts come in, $7.8 million. So that is 70 to 80% of what we are expecting for our taxes for the year. So we got all of that in November, which is a little bit earlier than normal. We should receive most of the rest of that in December, and then we'll just start getting triple payments in for the rest of the year as it'll cap off to the total amount that'll head in, but it looks like we're on track for about that $10 million that we have estimated. That is cash sitting in the bank. Other than that, we have some money in the special revenue. So that Medicaid fund that you see coming in, that pertains to Medicaid administrative claims. So you'll see that cycle of we have a payment going out the month before, we'll receive revenue in the next month. So that is the second half of the Medicaid claim coming back to us that we then turn around and push out to the districts. And then finally, I want to call to your attention, if you look in the internal service fund, you'll see charges for services of a negative $557,000. So you always should explain what a negative revenue is. And what that is that it was posted originally in this year, and then through the audit process, we pulled it back to last year. So in bringing it onto last year's books, we had to clear it off of this year's books. So it is it has no cash consequence for us. It's not that we're returning $550,000. It's just the period of time that it's actually being recognized in.
So just to clarify, it's payment for services that we just received late, or is it?
Correct. So at the time that the receipt was set up was after July 30th on there. So it originally was put into the books on this year, doing more of a cash basis for the modifiable accrual. We prefer it reported with the prior year on there. So as we moved it back to the prior year, we had to take it off the current year.
Okay, so just to make sure that our accounting is correct, but it doesn't make any.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, it would be correct either way. It's better form to do it the way that we corrected it towards.
Basically, like accounting and audit cleanup.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Any questions on that? Okay, let's take a look at expenditures. So expenditures were relatively normal. So we had the $3.5 million of operating expense that came through. That is, I would say that's right on the nose for what we expect. It's actually a little bit light because we had one-time payments in there for true-ups of retro payments for the collective bargaining agreement. So we had a little bit of extra cash in payroll on there as well. So on a normalized figure, we're still running more in that 3.4 monthly range. We had transfer and transits coming off the special revenue fund. It is not a coincidence that $1.6 million is the exact revenue figure that you see up above. So that is us moving over our administrative fees and moving the money out that we will pay out to the districts for Medicaid administrative claims. Other than that, it's a standard. All right, let's keep going. Year-to-date net position report. We will very soon here drop the beginning balances in as we close the audit out. We will monitor these throughout the year. It's a good thing to look at, to ask a question of, are we upside down? Remembering that fund balances are good one time per year, and that is on June 30th, when the only time they matter. But we'll keep an eye on it. Full faith credit obligation bond, I forgot to put the date executed on this, my apologies. We did actually pay the interest payment during the month of November. It went out on November 20th. I'll update that for the next one. The big payment, including the principal payment, isn't due until May. And then looking at the cash balance report, you'll see we have a lot of money sitting in our account right now, and that's because we received that $7.8 million of taxes in. So we've got about $26.2 million sitting in the LGIP, keeping as little as possible in our checking account. And looking at our cash balance trending, on the next page, you'll see we are at a high water mark for cash, which is a great feeling, collecting interest off of that as much as we can. See that in the trailing 12 as well, that we are getting a little bit of a drift up. That drift up we believe has more to do with cash timing than anything else. We are receiving payments earlier in the year than we have in the past. Anticipation is that it's going to slope back down because we are going to start chewing into that balance in the months ahead. But we should still see it around that steady sort of $19 to $20 million mark should be about where we're hanging out on cash balance. And then watching interest rates on here, which are really pertinent when you got $26 million in the bank. We're still holding out at about 4.43% for the LGIP yield. There is a little bit further pressure. It looks like it's going to bring that rate down, but so far nothing plummeting. So we are collecting good interest payments on that in the meantime. And aside of what is in the reports here, I just also wanted to follow up. I sent out a note to everybody earlier on there that the audit is delayed. That is not us. That is not our auditors. Due to all the federal shutdowns on their audit guidance that goes out on the single audit, which is everybody who's doing federal grants on there follows that through on their audit process. That guidance was late coming through. I sent the message off to you, and I think they completed the guidance the very next morning. So audits are proceeding forward. Auditors are under a little bit of pressure because they have a mass volume coming through all at once. ODE has said that they are just going to do January payments. Normally you have to have your audit completed by December 31st in order to get your January payment. They've said, we're just going to release January payments, which means the auditors are going to say, well, no need to rush through the holiday season. So we should be on track for that. Our anticipation is this will happen in February, but I'm going to hold back a little bit just because there's that big volume coming through. We don't know whether we will get bumped along any further. Other than that, everything, we have reports back from the auditors, and we're closing down right in the MD&A, and should be done.
And when we're done with our audit, the auditors are finished with that, then does ODE go over our audit like they do for school districts?
Yes, we turn our audit into them. Yeah, we'll turn it into it, and then they will compare that to what we have submitted. So we'll submit our financials at the same time. We'll submit the audit. They will compare those figures to make sure that they line up, get back to us if they see any issues on it. But yeah, they scrub us the same way that they do for district. Except we understand our financials a little less, because they only see about 19 of ours as opposed to
197 or whatever, yeah.
Any other questions on financials?
What happens when we have more cash sitting there than we are used to? Is there board policy that dictates how much we need to maintain in cash and then what to do with?
Not in the maintaining cash. Through the adoption of our budget, we have what needs to be maintained in contingency and unutilized reserves. That technically is fund balance, not cash balance, which don't line up with each other. But when we have excess cash sitting out there, the big thing is just to keep it in the investment account so that we are earning interest off of it while it comes through. It's important to remember as well, when you're looking at ESB's books, our cash balance doesn't read as true as everybody else's, remembering that we hold our district's money. There's a lot of money sitting in our bank account that does not belong to us, right? So we will collect that all in that has to be spent on the district. So it's not quite the same thing as sitting on cash fund balance if you were the district. All right, next up, I think this one's mine as well.
Yep.
The budget calendar, we have that before you, and we just need to have this, I believe, approved here tonight. So you'll see us walking through. There are very few changes that ever go through on our budget calendar. We're doing the same thing we always do. Budget committee meetings in May, on target to have the budget approved in the June meeting for the board, so that we can get everything filed by the July 14th.
You just entertain a motion to approve the budget calendar, make it official.
My question, is there a slightly out of date order on there? Is that intentional, or was that just a typo? That was your guess'?
May 5th.
May 5th of
May.
April.
That would be, the budget committee training is on the 5th, and the notice should be the 24th, so I think they're just swapped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We can, we'll flip those around and make sure you have a clean copy of it.
Okay.
So, yep.
I move to adopt the proposed 26-27 budget calendar with the changes.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026-27 budget calendar with discussed changes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. All right, the 2026-2027 budget calendar with the discussed changes has been unanimously approved. All right, and then moving on to superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. So, a lot of times you'll see in my superintendent's report that I make note of some things in the strategic task document. We actually only have one strategic task that was up for this month to check in on, and it's related to the local service plan. When I wrote this update for the board packet, I wasn't entirely sure that the local service plan would be voted on by our superintendents, and so I went into it hoping that during the VISA meeting last Friday on the 12th that they would approve it. They did, and so just as a reminder for those of you new board members of how this works, is we actually on an annual basis need to approve our local service plan. The way the governance works on this is that I work with our 12 component superintendents on making any revisions. It's typical that we will do more major revisions on a biennial basis, so every other year we're looking at it in a more robust way. That was last year. So this year we really just made little simple updates, like Denise and Bill, your pictures are in here. Eddie, your picture's in here instead of somebody else's picture being on the board. So there's little updates like that that were made in the document. And then the one update, if you flip to page 52 of the document, there is one change to service that we put in here, and it is a tier 2 service that is actually being piloted right now by our marketing director, our business development marketing director, Nathan Rousseau, and it's around creative services. We need to make sure that we articulate the services that we provide, even if it's something that districts purchase. In this case, Nathan's actually doing a pilot of a branding and marketing service for our school districts. He's working with Central Lynn, and Central Lynn is in a spot where they are trying to basically woo back and recapture some enrollment that has been lost over the past years. And so thinking about the school district brand and how the school district is conveyed to the community and everything is a big deal with that. I think they have a number of students that have left the district to go to homeschool or online school, and their superintendent, their interim superintendent, is working on this. And when I talked to him this summer, I said, I have somebody that might be able to help you with that. And so Nathan and I put together a pro bono plan. We're actually not charging them for this. I just thought this is a nice thing to do for one of our districts that's trying to work on something. It's a win for us because we get to test out what we want to do, and they're going to get branding and a new website and all of those things. And so I floated that to Rob Hess, the superintendent. He was super excited, and Nathan is really dynamic, and he made it really easy for them to be excited to work with us on that. So that's what that creative service piece is. So after the superintendents, in terms of governance, the superintendents, they vote on this. So last Friday, they voted yes to approve this for this next year, and then it comes before you. So I'm going to ask for you to make a motion to approve this. Then Lisa will send it out to all of the component districts, and then each of the component district boards need to approve the document by March 1st is the timeline. So that's really, what it is regarding the local service plan, or LSP, if you want another acronym in your life. There you go.
So many
Question?
acronyms.
Love the marketing idea. I mean, that's a great service, and I think of our friends in Central End who also, if I remember right, can't seem to pass a bond. And half of the battle of passing a bond is clearly communicating to your community the needs of your
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah,
So hopefully this also helps, because I know that they are really struggling with their infrastructure.
Yep.
What a cool service to offer.
yeah, thank you.
I mean, sees a lot of his work because he did our rebranding, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way this document looks is way different. I mean, it's more concise. All of the branding that he's done for us is really top notch.
Exactly.
It's a catalog. It's a catalog of services. Nice.
I know, right? Okay, I will entertain a motion about the local service plan.
I move that we adopt the 25-27 local service plan as published in the board folder.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the 2025 to 2027 local service plan. Any discussion? Okay. Those for approving the service plan, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say no. All right, we have unanimously approved the 2025 to 2027 local service plan.
Thank you very much.
And I believe that is the end of our official agenda. I'm just going to briefly go over important dates. So on Tuesday, January 20th, we have our regular board meeting. And then before that, we also have, for board members who are in our financial planning and labor relation work group, that will be before the regular board meeting at 4:30. And then on Monday, February 2nd, we have our board retreat that we referenced earlier. That's going to be an 8-hour session, so we'll have time to get into things in a little bit more detail. And then on Tuesday, February 17th, that will be our February regular board meeting. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting at 6:50.